Welcome back to Plastic Surgery Untold, greatest podcast in the world, as voted by us. You know, one of the questions we've gotten is this hot topic of AlloClae and where can we actually use it? So where can you actually use AlloClae? There's a variety of spots. So I'm gonna actually share all the places that we've used it in our practice. If you guys don't know, refer to one of our other episodes. AlloClae is the first filler designed specifically for the body. Comes in larger volumes than we've ever had possible before. It's also a processed donor fat. And so, in the past we've always gotten so many questions about whether, you can use someone else's fat. In the past I always said, no, we actually can't, but that has changed. So now what we could actually do is, just like someone would donate their organs, other things to science, they can actually donate it. It gets processed very specifically, very precisely to make sure that we're in a great spot with all of this, so that it's safe for you. So the idea behind this is that we can use it anywhere that we currently use fat grafting. The beauty of this is it's off the shelf, ready to inject filler for you. And so the places that we've used it on the front side, if you will, hands, I always think that this is a hidden gem because that's an area that, we interact with people on a daily basis, gets forgotten about all the time. Another great spot, and we're gonna see more and more of this, is breast. Still a limit because just like with butt, and we'll talk about this in terms of BBLs, the sheer volume that you need to make a real difference. But there's some really cool concepts for rippling, for contour deformities, for a little asymmetry from one breast to the other, for that kind of airbrush touch-ups. I think it's fabulous. One of the areas that we're exploring is actually, can we use this to pre-expand? So prior to a fat transfer to a breast, if you're gonna have full body lipo, can you create some space? Can you create some of those properties to get you into a spot to maximize that fat transfer potential? So I think that's gonna be super interesting. Also in the setting of Ozempic breast, you've seen a big change where people look great, they don't really wanna switch out their implants, they can maybe just see a little bit of rippling, a little bit of show of that implant, they just wanna soften that look. So I think those are gonna be huge for breast. I'll tell you, for muscle enhancement, you've seen us talking a lot about this in some of the extreme HD, but you've also seen this in some muscle injuries. People that are just having a hard time or have had an injury to a muscle and they want to accentuate that shape. And so the idea behind that is that, for a pec muscle, we can enhance that. Other areas that I could see us doing in the very, very near future is doing this for deltoids for men. Even biceps, you could even do it for some of the lower extremities because you could truly put it in that kind of fascia area and enhance that. I personally want to do it for my abs. You've seen us do this during our HD lipo, right? Where we lipo, we contour, and then we fill each of these little spots. And the idea behind that is that you're making this very anatomical, you're making it extremely perfect for them because you're enhancing their natural architecture. So you're gonna hear a theme throughout some of our podcasts talking about really respecting the anatomical architecture for people and making sure that we're getting them exactly their body, just enhanced in the way that they want. And I think that's gonna be the real trend forward because you're gonna see it's not gonna look overdone, it's not gonna look overly fake. It's gonna truly be them just enhanced the way that they want. And I think that is gonna be key. The other areas that you're gonna see is, unfortunately, some people have had lipo that maybe just didn't go how they wanted, didn't go just perfectly. And so the idea is that if they had a little blemish, a little something on their tummy, you could actually treat some of those lipo contour deformities. And some of the most common areas are obviously abdomen, arms areas, which is another one that we treat commonly, and then legs. Legs can be a humbling area with liposuction because the skin is very thin. It's got a little bit different adherence to it. So arms, legs, got to be a little bit careful when you're doing liposuction. Now there's a way to treat this without having to undergo another round of liposuction to get you to a good spot. So I think that's just scratching some of the surfaces. I got some additional areas here when we talk about this. We already talked about lipo deformities, traumas. Sometimes people have just had injuries. Sometimes it's not from a cosmetic surgery. Could be from a steroid injection, could be from a fall where you have a lump bump somewhere that you just want to smooth out those edges. And then the pre-expansion, we're going to get more to that on the backside, but I think that's something that's going to be absolutely key. Let me get rid of some of these marks here for us, and then we're actually going to go to the other side and take a look here. If you look on the back side, this is really key, and this is where AlloClae really started to jump off. And no question, hip dips is one because a lot of people are just like our figure here that was created by the help of ChatGPT. You have these hip dips, and you can really see where you're super fit, you're fabulous, you're living your healthy life. You just don't have that shape that you want. You feel like you're a little square, a little boxy. You're working out, you're doing all those things, and you just want a little bit of help. Someone like her doesn't have a lot of fat to transfer. So the idea behind this this is how can we enhance this? How can we get her to a great spot that looks fabulous, but also is going to be natural and have little downtime? And I think that's where AlloClae's great. So the idea behind this is being able to fill just a little bit of this, add just a little bit of volume here, and just enhance that just nicely to create that nice perfect silhouette curve. And this is where just a little bit of AlloClae goes perfectly just in terms of enhancing that overall shape. And this is why hip dips has probably been one of the most popular areas that we've done with AlloClae. You know, in general, we'll typically start with about 50 cc's per side. Some people need more, some people need less. Just really depends. Talk to your plastic surgeon. You know, obviously buttocks is a hot topic. And just do caution people a little bit. You know, there's just a limit to the amount of product that can be put at one time in terms of this. When you look at a BBL, we can transfer typically anywhere between, I mean, you really can transfer any amount, but most of our BBLs are in that 600 to 1,000 cc range per side. You know, so to make a real difference from a projection standpoint, unless you're treating an isolated dip, I typically tell people you need to be at least in that, 200 cc range per side to see a real difference. If we're treating a really isolated spot, you can definitely do less, but the more targeted we can be with the fat transfer, the better you're going to do with some of these things. So I think that's going to be really, really helpful in terms of stuff. You know, thighs, we talked about it on the front, no question on the back, the inner thighs, those are areas that make a big, big difference. You know, especially if people have had some lipo contour deformities, a little bit of lines, a little bit of show. So I think this is going to be helpful. Back of the arms, this is an area too that just that thin skin can be super challenging from this. And then, you know, we talked about the deltoids on the front side, but you can see it here as well, you know, and so just create a little bit of shape. You can do the same pre-expansion for the hip dips and buttock that you can for the breast. And so, you know, this is a concept that we've been playing a lot with. And the idea behind that is this, is that these hip dips sometimes are so tight, there's just not a lot of space there. It's just really tight of where you can actually put the fat. Imagine if we could make this space bigger. So now it's from here to here, and you got much more space to fill. Now you've stretched that out. You've created a real space. There's a real opportunity for our patients to get into a great spot with some of this, and that way we can expand this and get the shape we want, because really you've seen this transition from shape over size, and that means precision, that means placement, that means a lot of thought going into this to get it to a great spot. The one spot I don't want to forget down here, because we've had a lot of questions about this, and we got some people coming up, is calves. You know, calves is a great one because sometimes, you know, if you're like me, you're working out hard, you're trying to get to a good spot and just can't quite get to where you want in terms of shaping those calf areas. You know, all of us are anatomically a little bit different and going back to anatomical architecture and respecting those, but this is where you can just do a little bit of tweaking to get people into a good spot. I honestly think that we're just scratching the surface in terms of where we're going to place AlloClae, how we're going to do it. I think there's a lot of really cool things coming in terms of how much product and what we can do. We've been able to stretch AlloClae a lot farther than we can with fat transfer, I think, because it's highly processed. I think it's got a lot of structural strength. Some of the things that we avoided in the past has opened a world of opportunities, because it wasn't worth all the liposuction for tiny little spots, for some little contour deformities. Somebody may have had a problem with liposuction. Last thing they want to do is go back and have another round of liposuction. So this is a great option for them. The other thing, it makes it very feasible in this busy world to be able to do serial treatments for people. And the idea behind that is that you can, you know, treat, because there's a lot of times when people have a divot or a contour deformity, you know, because of the space like we're talking about, there's a limit to how much we can get that up into a space. So we can serially do this because people can come in, procedure takes about an hour from numbing, marking. The actual injection is pretty quick. It's really about making you comfortable. It's about the precision placement of the product to make sure that we get you just where you want to be. So those are the things that are going to make the biggest difference. And being able to do this in a serial fashion, being able to do this on your time, to be able to do this without a lot of downtime, I think is going to be absolutely huge. So hopefully this helped. We'll talk a little bit more about what AlloClae actually is, but hopefully this helps in terms of where and what you can do AlloClae. When we come back a year from now and we talk about this is probably going to be double in the amount of places that we've used AlloClae, but super excited to share with all of you guys. Plastic Surgery Untold, greatest podcast in the world, as voted by us. Get us anywhere that you listen to your favorite podcast, Spotify, Pandora, and now you can watch us on YouTube. All right, see you guys soon. Bye.